Hi everybody, I'm back with a bit less hair. So, man, it's been a while actually. I have managed to, I don't know, lose track of time. That's how it works. It's one of its features. You get to lose its track. But now that I am back, I got nothing else to do, so I might as well talk about some shit. This time around, I've been meaning to say something. I had this in my mind for a long time. Actually, I kind of figured it out, obviously, too late after I graduated. But it's an interesting take nonetheless on the difference between certain vocations, disciplines, and specializations. And how you have to be very, 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 and I'm not saying this lightly, hyperbolically, careful to understand where you're getting at, because holy fuck, I guess my whole every one of my talks kind of ends up bashing higher education, and I would never really bash higher education. I would only bash the institutions as they are now and how they promote higher education, because there are fundamental differences. We've bundled everything we can think of studying for the time being. Obviously there's much more, but everything that we can kind of agree that an average human being at least can go and study into these institutions. But we treat everything very much the same way. So we treat everything as having a start point, well, and obviously an end point, but in between, there are some branching paths where you can take a few breaks, like bachelor's, master's, PhD. That's one of the dangers that I want to kind of demonstrate in a way that isn't the same for every vocation. Definitely not worth it for some. I mean, I would say for universities, I don't know how much they've updated their curricula at this point, but for most of their streams is I mean, a lot of subjects at school, a lot of degrees should really be done at bachelor's. You just kind of, I don't know if you want to look at it that way, but you pay your debt to society, like you're an educated member of it. So you can discuss maybe some Shakespeare, some Chaucer, talk a bit of math here and there, but really you're looking for work. Let's put it plain and simple. You're looking for work, but you're not just some guy who can only talk about something that he does for a living. Like, you're not just some guy who can talk about welding, or you're not just some guy who can talk about data entry. You're not just some girl that can talk about I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but making sandwiches? Okay, never mind. So yeah, you're not just a girl that can talk about medicine. You know what the society in general talks about. So let's now apply. Oh, by the way, I fully realize that I've kind of maybe lost you, but just stick with me. Pay attention to a lot of the stuff I'm talking about, because I really want to get into the differences between certain types of specialization. So let's start with something like math, or let's be more practical so that it's easier and takes less time. Let's start with something like engineering, mechanical engineering. Okay, you're an engineer that can build structures, machines, pieces of machinery, stuff like that. You understand materials. It's not about sketching just what they try to get you to learn in high school. You understand the masses, like how the physics behind the materials. You understand structural integrity of materials, bunch of stuff that comes with it. And you can talk about it as well, right? Like, these technical terms. Superheating maybe is one of them. I don't know, that's stuck in my head recently. But you know a bunch of technical terms that like an average Joe maybe doesn't know. But at the same time, you know enough technical, enough to just get by, right? So when you speak about superimposing stuff, or when you talk about catalysts or I don't know. Why did I pick mechanical engineering? Anyway, yeah. So when you talk about these sorts of things, you have to explain them to someone that doesn't know it, that isn't in your field. So for example, if you're talking about like, oh man, I know, hold on. Structural beams. Yeah. You talk about those, right? So a person's like, oh, what's that? You say, well, it's one of the beams in the structure that bears, load bearing. Well, there you go. It bears a lot of the weight and that kind of stuff. And they'll be like, okay, I get the idea, right? Or maybe not. You can show it to them, you can draw it to them, for them. But now you've explained something that, I don't know, has practical application. Now check this out. So see me, I'm an idiot, as you can tell. And I did my degree in English, but I did pretty okay, to be perfectly honest. Like, I understood a lot of this shit. I figured out what's going on, and I was pretty creative. I got praises, so on and so on. Yes, I'll brag. It's the only time I get to brag. But I wasn't like, I guess you could say I wasn't really like Shakespeare. At least I didn't apply myself. But then I realized, like, what sort of skill do I have that is kind of esoteric, but at the same time will give me an edge? Now here's the thing. If you're a kick-ass engineer, right, like, you can design very efficient, very impressive, robust, resilient, sturdy, lightweight. You can design structures that are highly desirable that other people really can't do, and they'll pay you good money for it because you're going to be able to do something that they can't. They will not understand how you did it. You won't need to explain what you did. You just present them with the final product, and they will value it. They will have a great value to them. They'll pay you for it, and you probably get more repeat customers or whatever. Now, not only that, but you can kind of keep this knowledge to yourself, and as long as you know it and you can reproduce your work over and over again, you're good. Now look at what happens when you apply this specialization thing to something like English, as someone who's an amazing kick-ass writer. Now what usually you get is something that really put me off with arts and with just the whole like discipline of arts, especially fine arts and not humanities, because they don't really go about it in that way. And that is the idea of being esoteric. You're gonna start throwing. What is your skill as an English specialist? Now a lot of people will think it's like, oh, he's using bigger words. Like every time I told people like, I'm an English major, they're like, oh, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? I say, I'm not a dictionary. I'm just a oh, you're a math major? What's 16 plus 49 divided by 28 to the square root of 4? Oh, you don't know? You're useless, right? So they would always ask me though, it's like, what does this mean? What does that mean? And I think in a way even English majors think of themselves that way. They're like, oh, well, if I'm an English major, well, I can just simply use the word use. I gotta say utilize. Utility is much more evocative than just simply use, right? And so on and so on. You will find articles in publications, and best by looking at their language, it'll tell you who their market is. Sometimes they'll write, oh my God, like I swear, like there's an article written about someone prominent. Yeah. So that judge who was assigned to Ghislaine Maxwell's case, right? FedEx driver ran up on her, shot her son, and wounded her husband, right? I'm an English major. I went to school for it. I took journalism classes. I would have never, ever in my fucking life, especially being so callous to the subject, is to write a headline that I saw in Toronto Sun that reads, oh, judge assigned to something like Ghislaine Maxwell's case. Some guy disguised as a FedEx driver ran up on this woman's house, wounded hubby. In a tragedy like this, you couldn't belch out the whole husband, right? You gotta say hubby, because that's just how your readers are. They think everything is fucking cute, right? Okay, so you have that kind of publications. And then my friend some time ago posted an excerpt from some pretentious New York, not New York, or some New York style publication that just, wow. Really what they were saying is that like some president, politician running for president has slim chances of getting elected because of something, right? It was written in a whole paragraph with so many words that an average Joe would be like, yo, what language is this? I know it was English. Yeah, I knew it was English because I took an English degree. But every other person would be like, what the fuck is this? I don't understand the word this person's saying. Now, here's the thing. It both serves and defeats its purpose. Serves its purpose is that it strokes the egos and the heads of the people who think they're just as smart as the people writing it. Now, it defeats its purpose because you're cutting off a bunch of people that will never pick up your publication because they don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So I hope I'm making a point here now that we can, with your expertise, you can clearly alienate half, or not half, like some amount of people. I mean, all maybe, if some super esoteric expertise, and gain nothing for it. So you're gonna do, and here's another thing I noticed about these art and literature degrees. A lot of my professors are like, oh, I'm a specialist in Edward James, forgetting these names. I'm a specialist in 19th century literature from 1840s to 1860s. Like, after a while, you know, they can tell you what kind of tea Shakespeare used to like to drink, or they'll tell you what sort of fashion was common in World War I England, which influenced some poem. And you're like, yo, bro, are you a historian? You're talking about history. Like, what part of, well, how did doing this specialization make you a better poet, writer, literary? It probably did in some way. But at the same time, we need to consider efficiency. You spent 10 years being an expert on a subject that you will probably only converse with your friends, your peers. The resourcefulness of the knowledge that you've gained, which is, in some ways, it's extremely valuable, so that we can defeat a lot of these conspiracy theories, how everything can be conveniently positioned in different timelines, but then people like that will be like, well, hold on, this is some serious bullshit, because, you know, from 1960s to 1970s, people did not wear that, and this did not even exist. No, there's no record of something like that being talked about at the time. So you can take this conspiracy theory that, like, government started putting benzene in milk because of whatever reason out, because that simply just did not, that word wasn't even used back in the day. Something far-fetched like that, right? And I want to bring it back in to say, you can have technical degrees, you can do super specializations, but the super specialization in a technical degree like that benefits you for sure, and it's a matter of you using this specialization. Now, it could be for good or for evil. Either way, the result is almost one-to-one, like direct and obvious. You're either going to, let's say, create a bomb, or you're going to create some energy shield. You're either going to build buildings, or you're going to create some biological warfare, weaponry. You have a skill that absolutely every other person, could be as ignorant as a peanut, will see, behold, and use to the greater extent. For example, like bikes. Nowadays, it doesn't take a serious engineer to build a regular bike. Maybe these like super specialized ones, they do need really high levels of expertise. But anybody can ride a bike. You can have a $100 bike. You can have a $100,000 bike. Anybody can ride a bike at least within a week. Almost anybody. Okay, I don't get into these details. You can have an amateur English major in like the first, second year of university, or you can have a PhD doctorate candidate, or just a tenured professor who speaks with words that a lot of people have a hard time understanding. So what is his money getting him? It's getting him his own self-satisfaction. That's why a lot of them are poor in some way. They complain about money. I've been to these schools. They're like, oh, professors don't get paid so well. Well, how come your books cost $200 each, right? Yeah, because nobody really appreciates the fact that instead of throwing around words like poor, you can say destitute. Instead of saying sickly, you can say, how was it? Morbid. Yeah, morbid. So you have a big span, a chasm. There you go. Putting my degree to use. But you have a great chasm between what kind of degrees are offered and what you can get for them. Now, I don't think you need to look too far to understand, to apply this scenario for other disciplines that I have had no interest in. For example, art, drawing. Yeah, it's cool to learn. It's cool to be exposed to different styles. It's cool to learn the techniques, how to draw with different materials, how to draw with oil, water, how to recreate what Rembrandt did, how some other did. But ultimately, you gotta have your own style. No one's gonna pay you for knockoffs of the classics. Like they're already, they've been done, man. You want to be able to talk about exactly why Van Gogh cut off his ear, or what was Pablo Picasso's third girlfriend's name, or that kind of stuff. Go ahead, commit $100,000 and double digit maybe of studies to that, or you could go to the library and just learn that. I studied my first web development courses here. I just came to Canada. Or yeah, you could spend also the same, you can apply the same thing. You could spend 10 years in school, $200,000 to become an engineer, software developer, this, that. You're going to be able to do things that most people cannot. But when you do those things, those people will use them. How many people here Google? Everybody uses Google. Do you know how it works? It's complex as shit, I can tell you that much. But it's fucking easy to type in, was moon landing a hoax? It'll spit it out. You can click on a few and you can read. If you can read, you're good. Now the articles, whoever writes the articles, that could be very different. You could click on one of the articles and some person is writing like an absolute maniac, and another person is writing simply from the heart. He thinks that moon landing is fake. It's impossible to go so far. There's not enough fuel in the spaceship, and there's solar radiation that will just kill you halfway there. And you can understand that, or you could, don't get me wrong, speaking on a subject like that, some scientists can be like that too. They can become very esoteric and start talking about these subjects in very much terms that they've learned. But at least these are terms that have practical applications, like gravity, quarks, residual radiation, that kind of stuff. Like these things mean stuff, just not to you, but they'll understand it. Now, someone like an English degree, or an artist, or a musician throwing words around like crescendos and half notes, they mean stuff. But if someone else doesn't understand what they mean, they're useless. See, what a long-winded way for me to get to this place. But I'm saying that, like, if you have technical knowledge, even if people don't understand what you're saying, you still have something that you can hold on to as value, and you can create and reproduce, and other people will enjoy. When all you have is words and you're not effectively using them purely as well, you're not like a person who's out there as a speaker, your options are fucking limited. So you know, it's okay if we don't understand the scientists at Google. It's okay if we don't understand builders. But it's not okay if we don't understand the people who write articles or work in the government and that kind of stuff. So for them to pursue this extra specialization is such a wasteful um, endeavor, because what are they going to get out of it? A history lesson? Fucking Google, for God's sake. And it's just ironic. And but schools will peddle each one of them the same, because you come in there, they look at you as a young, confused kid who's like, well, fuck, my mom's pressured me on the one side to go to school, but society on the other, and these schools are right there in the middle, and they're like, hey, just pick a card, any card, and you'll get a fucking degree. What a bunch of liars! I swear to God, it's a scam. You're going into university and you don't know what you're doing. Get the fuck out of there. That's like going to a grocery store on an empty stomach. You're gonna just put a bunch of stuff in there that's no good for you. Waste your money. Waste your energy. Waste your time. Yeah. So what I think that one of the ways this could be addressed is by I'm like a squirrel, eh? So I can look away like a dog that sees a squirrel. Yeah, so one of the ways this can be addressed is by governments reducing funding. I understand it's freaking hairy, and maybe I'm stretching this video for too long, but like, you can't give the same kinds of loans for people pursuing English degrees as you will to people pursuing computer sciences, for example. And nowadays, what's coming up is even more intense stuff like what's it called, quantum computing. Biology, chemistry, nanotechnologies, all these new material discoveries. Like these are seriously, like, we're manipulating nature from its very core. Versus, and we're paying people money to do this, to study this, because not a lot of people can, and then not a lot of people will invest the energy it takes to do this stuff. Versus giving people $20, $30, $100,000 loans to what? Read poems? And universities are going to justify this, saying, yeah, this is good for our societies. I graduated. My first job out of college took me like a solid half a year to get. Was basically like a proofreader. It said editor, but really was proofreading job at a press release company. And I was just there like a machine, man, you're done with one of the press releases, you go pick up another one, you proof it, someone else proofs it for you, it gets disseminated, go. You fuck up, you're in trouble. You fuck up again, you're in big trouble. Third time, you don't fuck up. So it was like something I never wanted to do. It's like a general labor job, except it wasn't in a warehouse. I was sitting at a desk in some office thinking I was cool, but it's just fucking awful. Horrible, toxic people everywhere. So shortly after, a few months in, they hired this other girl. She was also English major, but the difference between me and her was a master's degree. Same pay, same work, same office, just 2 seats apart. She was $20,000-$30,000 in debt more than me. Nobody gave a fuck that she had masters. She couldn't talk her way out of a damn thing. You think she's a better writer than me, let's say, or she's a better Englisher? She thinks. Yeah. So I think our government really needs to, all governments really need to reevaluate how they fund schools, how they approach education and schools. Boy, if there's a mafia out there, I mean, that higher education is a fucking mafia. And you can say whatever you want from me. You think that I'm just saying this stuff is because it's just what popped into my head? I'm willing to debate any single one of these topics, because tell me what I said didn't make sense. Not because you got a job, you succeeded, but because most people get good jobs by graduating with English degrees, history degrees, philosophy degrees, art degrees and they have good jobs and they're not doing data entry or office work or fucking YouTube if they're fucking lucky. You tell me that that's the trend, that's the majority of that's the norm, versus people who have like accounting degrees, biology degrees. I know they're in trouble too, but there are certain degrees that you have a job almost while you're in school. And you also have to ask yourself this: why are you going to school? Do you want to get a job, or do you want to work for yourself, or do you want to be a boss? If you simply want to get a job, you only have a few options for degrees, and you might not even need to go to university. You could just do it yourself. Nowadays, employers appreciate self-made people. Hey, don't get me wrong, you're not going to be a self-taught doctor, you're not going to be a self-taught engineer, you're not going to be a self-taught lawyer. Some of these things just won't work out. If that's what you want to do, the path is clear. You're doing that. Power to you. Get through it. It's hard, but you're going to get there. Oh, you don't know what you want to do? Ask yourself, do you want to go to work 9 to 5 and you want a paycheck and you just want to hang out after? If that's what you want to do, don't waste your time, money, energy, and youth. Yes, university is a cool experience. You go there, you go to the parties, you go to all these events. But I've seen so many suckers at school, they were just like, oh my God, like I want to be here. They're just like shy to do anything. They're not participating in extracurricular activities. They're just there because they think they're going to get a job after. Enjoy your life. Anyway, cheers.